2:70 a.m. A city of glass and concrete and money sleeping behind locked gates. From above, towers catching light, highways still moving. A skyline that never forgets arc. Closer now. One building, downtown. Smoke curling from the fourth floor like something alive trying to get out. Closer still. A man in borrowed gear moving through a basement filled with heat and gray air. Not a firefighter. No badge. No training for this. Just a man with a flashlight and 10 years of knowing what wires do when they go wrong. He finds it. Old machine. Bad connections. The kind of mistake that waits 30 years before it kills someone. His hands don't shake. He works like he's done this 1,000 times. Like this is just another Tuesday. It isn't 3 days from now, those same hands will hold something that means more than any building. But right now, he reaches for the final wire. Tuesday, 5:30 a.m. My alarm goes off and I'm already awake. Been awake since 5, actually, lying there in the dark. Listening to the ceiling fan turn slow circles above me, thinking about nothing, thinking about everything. That's the thing nobody tells you about being a single dad. It's not the work that breaks you, it's the quiet. The 3 seconds between when your eyes open and when the day starts coming at you like a freight train. 3 seconds where you could be anybody, could be anywhere. Then Amara makes a sound from the other room, and you remember exactly who you are. I got up, same as always. Moved through the apartment in the dark. Our place was 800 square feet on a good day. 2 rooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen the size of a generous closet. The kind of apartment where you learn to walk without bumping into things because you've done it 10,000 times. I put the coffee on first. That was non-negotiable. Then I went to wake her up. Amara was 7 years old, and she slept like the world owed her something. Sprawled out on the sofa bed, one arm hanging off the edge, her hair a disaster. She had my mother's cheekbones and her own mother's stubbornness, and a laugh that could fill up a whole room. I loved her so much it sometimes felt like a physical thing. Like something pressing against my ribs from the inside. Hey, I touched her shoulder. Time to get up, baby, she groaned. Pulled the blanket over her face. Amara, 5 more minutes. You said that yesterday. And I meant it then too. I pulled the blanket back. She squinted up at me like I'd personally offended her by making the sun rise. This was every morning. Every single morning, I didn't mind. We moved through our routine the way you move through something you've done. So many times it stops feeling like work. I got her dressed while she complained about her socks feeling weird. Found her left shoe underneath the kitchen table, where it always ended up somehow. Made her a peanut butter sandwich because she'd decided the week before that she didn't like eggs anymore. 7-year-olds have strong opinions. Packed her bag, checked her homework folder, made sure she had her water bottle, zipped her jacket. By 6:15 we were in the truck. My truck was a 2009 Ford F-150 with a dent in the passenger door and rust creeping up around the wheel wells. The heat worked. The radio mostly worked. It started every morning, which was really all I asked of anything in my life. We drove through Houston in the early gray light. Not many people out yet, just the ones who had to be. Amara ate her sandwich in the passenger seat and told me about a dream she'd had about a horse that could talk. What did the horse say? I asked. He said school was cancelled forever. Convenient dream. I thought so. I dropped her at Miss Patterson's daycare at 6:40. Watched her run inside without looking back. She never looked back. That was her way. My phone buzzed with the first job of the day at 6:43. The address was in River Oaks. I looked at it for a second. River Oaks. Flickering light in the garage. 45-minute job, maybe less. Then I had a panel replacement over in Midtown and a rewire consultation in the Heights. Full day. Good day. The kind of day that kept the lights on in our apartment and food in Amara's lunchbox. I pulled out of the daycare parking lot and headed west. I want to tell you I had some feeling that morning. Some sense that the day was different, that I was driving towards something that would change my life. I didn't. I was just a man with a job to do, same as any other Tuesday. That's usually how it works. The big things don't announce themselves. They just show up at your door wearing work boots. River Oaks is the kind of neighborhood where the gates cost more than my yearly rent. I'm not exaggerating. The iron gate at the end of Shadow Creek Lane probably ran $60,000, $70,000 easy. Custom work. Old Houston money written in metal. I drove my truck through it and felt the neighborhood change around me. Everything quieter. Everything bigger. Oak trees 100 years old making tunnels over the road. Driveways you could park 12 cars in. Houses that weren't really houses. They were statements. This is what we have. This is what we are. I'd worked in neighborhoods like this before. The work was the same. Wires are wires, panels are panels. Didn't matter if the house cost 400,000 or 4 million, but I always felt something pulling in my chest when I drove through places like this. Not jealousy. Not exactly. More like a question I couldn't quite form. The address was 1847 Shadow Creek Lane. I pulled up and sat for a moment with both hands on the wheel. The house was glass and steel and clean lines. Beautiful in the way things are beautiful when someone designed them to impress rather than comfort. High ceilings visible through floor-to-ceiling windows. A 3-car garage. Landscaping that looked like it had its own full-time staff. Not a home, really. More like a portfolio piece. I grabbed my toolbox and walked up the stone path. Before I could ring the bell, the door opened. The woman standing there was younger than I expected. Early 30s, maybe. Dark jeans, cream-colored sweater. Hair pulled back in a loose knot. No makeup that I could see. And on her left hand, pressed into the skin near her thumb, a dark smudge paint. Or maybe charcoal. The kind of mark you forget you have because you were in the middle of something real when it happened. I noticed the house first. Then I noticed her eyes. They were tired. Not regular tired. Not I didn't sleep enough tired. This was something deeper. Something that had been there long enough to settle in. Careful, I thought. That was the word. Her eyes were carefully tired, like someone who had learned to manage their exhaustion, so it didn't show too much. "You're the electrician," she said. "Yes, ma'am. Brian Thompson. Got a call about a flickering light garage. It's been 3 days." She stepped back to let me in. "It's making me insane." I followed her through the house. And quiet. God, it was quiet. Not peaceful quiet. Empty quiet. The furniture looked expensive and untouched. The living room had a couch nobody sat on. The kitchen looked cleaner than a showroom. Morning light poured through the windows like it was trying to warm up a space that didn't quite want to be warmed. The whole house felt like it had been built to be seen. Not to be lived in. She led me to the garage. It was bigger than my apartment. Polished concrete floors. Clean white walls. One black car parked in the center, some kind of sedan, clean as the day it was made. That one. She pointed to a ceiling fixture near the back wall. I set my toolbox down and pulled out my ladder. "Shouldn't take long," I said. "You say that like you already know what's wrong." "I usually do." Something shifted in her expression. Not quite a smile. Close enough that I noticed it. I climbed up, opened the fixture, and found the problem in under a minute. Loose wire connection. Bad, original install. Classic. The kind of thing that looks dramatic because lights are flickering and now you're calling people. But it's really just a wire that wasn't seated right from day one. "How long?" she asked from behind me. 10 minutes, maybe less. Good. I have a call at 8. I worked. She stayed. Most clients drift off the moment you start. They want the problem gone, not the process. But she stayed there, standing near the garage door with her arms loosely crossed. Watching, not in a rude way, not hovering. Just present, the way someone is present when they're used to keeping track of everything in their environment. I noticed she didn't check her phone. Not once. I fixed the wire. Tested the voltage. Secured everything back up. Climbed down, all set. She looked at the light for a moment. Clean, steady beam. "Thank you." "No problem." We walked back into the kitchen. She pulled a checkbook from a drawer. Actual checkbook, actual pen. I noticed that. People with real money usually made everything digital. Fast, clean, no contact. But she wrote it out by hand, her handwriting careful and angular. When she handed it to me, our fingers touched for half a second. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Brian's fine." She paused, then held out her hand properly. "Laura." "Laura Clark." I shook it. Firm, professional. And something else I couldn't name right away. She was waiting, watching to see if my face would change when she said the name. Like people's faces sometimes did, mine didn't. I packed up my tools, headed for the door. I figured that was it. Another morning job, another client, another address I'd forget by lunch. Then she called after me. "Can I ask you something?" I turned around. Sure. She was standing in the kitchen doorway, one hand on the frame. Morning light fell across her face, and for a moment she didn't look guarded. She looked unsure. Like she was about to ask something she wasn't sure she was allowed to ask. "Do you like your work?" That stopped me. I stood there on the front step and really thought about it. Because nobody had ever asked me that. Not clients, not friends, not my mother even. People asked what I charged. They asked if I was licensed. They asked if I could come on weekends. But nobody asked if I actually liked what I did. "Yeah," I said. The answer came after a second. "I do." "Why?" Because it was the truth and she'd asked it plainly. "It's honest work," I said. "You fix something and it stays fixed. There's something good about that. Something you can count on." She looked down for a moment, then back at me. Something moved across her face quickly. I almost missed it. Not envy. More like longing. The kind of longing you see in someone who once had access to something simple and true, and lost it so gradually they didn't notice until it was gone. That must be nice, she said softly. Before I could answer, she gave me a small nod. Professional. Final. Thank you again, Brian. The door closed. I stood there on that stone path holding her check, staring at a door that should have meant nothing. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just met a woman who had everything money could buy, and was still looking for something she'd lost the name of. I drove to Midtown with that feeling sitting in the passenger seat. It didn't leave me all day. 3 days later, Saturday morning, Amara had soccer practice at Briar Grove Park. I was standing at the sideline with a paper cup of bad coffee, watching her chase the ball with every ounce of her 7-year-old self, her ponytail flying, her socks already dirty at 9 a.m., her face serious like she was playing for the championship of the entire world. She wasn't very good at soccer, honestly. She didn't care at all. That was one of the things I loved most about her. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail. Brian Thompson, Mr. Thompson. This is Laura Clark. We met earlier this week. I recognized her voice immediately. The particular way she spoke, measured, quiet, like each word was chosen before she said it, of course. Is there a problem with the light? The light is fine. A brief pause. I'm calling about something else. On the field, Amara tripped over the ball, went down on both knees, bounced right back up like nothing happened, kept running. That's my kid. Okay, I said. I have several properties that need electrical work. Maintenance, inspections, some upgrades. I'd rather work with one reliable person than keep rotating through different contractors. Her voice stayed level. I wanted to know if you'd be interested. How many properties? 4 residential. 2 commercial. That was real work. Steady work. The kind that didn't come along every week. I watched Amara miss a pass completely and throw her hands up like she'd nearly scored a goal. Can I ask why you're calling me? I said. There are bigger operations that handle jobs like this. I don't want a bigger operation, she said it simply. No performance. I want someone who actually cares whether the work is done right or not. A short pause. You do, don't you? I thought about that for a second. Yeah, I said. I do. Then I'd like to hire you. We set a Thursday afternoon for an initial walkthrough consultation. She gave me a time, said she'd email the property addresses. Thank you, Brian. She hung up before I could say anything else. I stood there at the sideline with the dead phone in my hand. Amara came running over at the break, cheeks flushed, grass stains on both knees, absolutely beaming. Did you see? I almost scored. I saw. Almost. Almost is good. She grabbed my coffee cup and drank from it without asking. Gross, she said immediately. How do you drink this? It's an acquired taste. It tastes like burned sadness. She handed it back and ran off again. I smiled at the back of her head. Then I thought about Thursday. Something I couldn't name exactly. Not excitement, not nerves. Something quieter than both. Like standing at the edge of something and not knowing yet whether it was a step or a drop. Thursday afternoon, 2 o'clock. I showed up at Shadow Creek Lane in my cleanest work shirt. Brought a notebook instead of my toolbox. Felt slightly ridiculous about both. Laura opened the door in black slacks and a silk blouse. Her feet were bare again, and there it was, that smudge on her hand. Different color this time. Darker, almost black, the kind of mark that comes from working with charcoal or very dark paint. It didn't match the silk blouse. It didn't match the house. That made it the most honest thing about either one. Come in, she said. Thank you for making time. She led me to a smaller sitting room off the main hall. This room was different. It had papers on the coffee table, a laptop open, a mug with a tea stain dried around the handle. It looked like somewhere a person actually existed. We sat. She ran through the properties with precision. 3 rental homes, 2 office buildings downtown, the main house. She knew her own portfolio better than most clients knew their own addresses. She had questions ready. She asked them without wasting time. I took notes, asked my own questions. Timeline, access, priority repairs. She leaned back in her chair after about 20 minutes. I want to be clear about something, she said. Okay, this is a business arrangement. I'm not looking for friendship, not looking for anything personal. She kept her voice level. I need someone competent and reliable. That's the whole thing. The words were direct, but the speed of them caught my attention. Too fast, too practiced. Like she'd delivered some version of that speech before. Like she'd needed to. Understood, I said. I'm here to do good work. Something in her face relaxed. Just slightly. Good, she said. Then we understand each other. We spent another 30 minutes on the details. Access codes, scheduling, materials she'd already sourced. When I stood to leave, she walked me to the door. "I'll email the addresses tonight," she said. "Start the walkthroughs whenever you're ready. Sounds good." I made it halfway down the stone path. "Brian," I turned. She was standing in the doorway, framed by the house behind her. The morning light was different now, afternoon, gold, coming in sideways. "Thank you for being straightforward with me," she said. Something shifted in her expression. "Most people aren't." A pause. "Most people want something from me." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. Walked back to my truck. Didn't think about it too much. Told myself I didn't think about it too much. The walkthroughs took me almost 2 weeks. I fit them around my regular jobs. Early mornings before Amara woke up. Late afternoons after I dropped her with my mother. A couple rushed hours between school pickup and dinner. Laura gave me access codes and keys. Most of the time she wasn't there. When she was, she kept to herself. Then I got to the converted guest wing of the main house. I stepped through the door expecting another polished, perfect space. I found the studio. Canvases stacked against every wall. Easels near the windows. Shelves crowded with brushes and paint tubes and jars of cloudy water. A pottery wheel in the corner. Half-finished bowls drying on a work table. The smell of the room. Clay and paint and something alive. I stood in the doorway and forgot for a moment why I was there. This room didn't match the rest of the house. The rest of the house was built to impress. This room was built to be in. There was a difference. A real difference. You could feel it the moment you crossed the threshold. At the back of the room, one large canvas, blues and grays, hard brush strokes, colors that didn't quite resolve, like watching a storm trying to break out of a frame and not quite making it. "Those are private." I turned so fast I nearly dropped my tablet. Laura was standing in the doorway behind me, arms folded. Expression I couldn't read. "I'm sorry," I said. "I was checking the lighting conditions in here." "You mentioned it was too dim for detail work." She didn't answer. I held up the tablet. "You were right. The color temperature's off and you're losing contrast in anything below 18 inches from the floor." I kept my voice professional. "Steady, I can fix it. Track lighting, adjustable temperature, better diffusion. You'd have full spectrum coverage across the whole room." A beat of silence. "You know about art lighting." "I know about lighting. Had a client once who was a photographer." Picked up a few things. She walked to one of the canvases near the window. Adjusted it slightly. "It didn't need adjusting." "You're full of surprises," she said. "Not really. I just pay attention." She almost smiled. The corner of her mouth moved. "Add it to the proposal." I made the note. Then I turned to go. Her voice stopped me again. "Can I ask you something?" I looked back. "Sure." She was standing near the work table now, one hand resting on the edge. Not looking at me. Looking at the canvases along the wall. "Was this always the plan?" she asked. "This work, electrician. Was this what you wanted?" I knew what she was actually asking, not about wires or tools. "About a life." "No," I said. "I fell into it. Needed work after high school. Turned out I was good at it. Then life happened." "What kind of life?" I laughed once. No humor in it. "Marriage, divorce, a kid to raise." "Bills?" I shrugged. "The usual." She turned to look at me then. That steady, careful way she had. "And before all that," she said. Her voice went quieter. "What did you want?" Nobody had asked me that in years. I leaned against the doorframe. Looked down at my hands. "I used to think I'd start my own company," I said. "Not just service calls. Something real. Commercial contracts. A crew. Train younger guys coming up." I paused. Build something that was mine." Laura said nothing. Just watched me. "Turns out wanting something and being in a position to do it aren't the same thing." "No," she said quietly. "They're not." The room went still after that. Not awkward. Just heavy. Like we'd both said more than we intended. I left a few minutes later, but I carried that conversation with me, all the way home. Through pickup at Amara's after-school program, through dinner and bath time, and the argument about whether one more story counted as bedtime or not. Even after Amara was asleep and the apartment had gone quiet, I kept thinking about Laura standing in that studio, paint mark on her hand, canvases nobody was supposed to see. That storm trying to break out of a frame. Nobody asks questions like that, unless they have a few of their own. A week after the studio, I was finishing up work in the guest wing. Last of the new lighting track. I'd been at it since just after 3. Amara was with my mother that evening, which gave me a few extra hours. The new lights were good. Adjustable color temperature. Clean, even coverage. Every canvas in the room lit properly now. You could see the real colors, the actual depth of each piece. Standing back and looking at it, I felt something I didn't expect. The room was transformed, same walls, same canvases. But now you could see them, really see them. The storm painting in the back, the blues and grays and those hard brush strokes. It looked different in proper light. Not trapped anymore, like it had room to breathe. I was packing up when Laura appeared in the doorway, holding 2 glasses. "It's after 6, she said. She set one glass on the work table near me. "You're off the clock." I looked at the glass. Then at her. "You trying to break your own rules?" I said. She paused. Something crossed her face. "Probably." I set my tool bag down. She handed me the wine and leaned against the wall across from me. We didn't sit. It felt like sitting would make it something larger. More personal. Harder to pretend it was still just professional. I took a sip. It was good. The kind of good that makes you quietly aware of how much things like this cost. "Laura." "Yes. What are we doing?" She looked at her glass before she answered. "I'm not sure because this doesn't feel like electrical work anymore." "No." Her voice dropped. "It doesn't." The studio had gone quiet. The new lights cast everything in warm white. Outside, Houston was moving through its evening. Traffic, somewhere, a car horn, the distant sound of someone's sprinklers. In here, it was still. She looked different in this light. Less like someone who owned buildings. More like someone who had been carrying something heavy for a very long time and had almost forgotten there was another way to stand. "I don't usually let people into my space," she said. I noticed. "You notice everything. Part of the job." "No," she looked at me. "It's part of you. That got under my skin." I crossed my arms. "Then tell me something true." She let out a breath that almost sounded like a laugh. "You first." "Fine." I held her gaze. "Sometimes I'm so busy surviving that I forget to ask whether I'm actually living." Her eyes changed when I said that. Something opened. Something that had been closed. "That's true," she said softly. She looked toward the window, the dark glass. "Your turn." She was quiet for a moment. "I built my whole life around being untouchable," she said finally. The words came out quiet, precise, like she'd thought them before but never said them. Money does that. Success does that. People stop asking real questions when you become too impressive to approach honestly. "Is that what you wanted?" "No," her voice dropped. "It's what kept me safe." I didn't move. Neither did she. Then she said the 5 words that changed everything. "I'm tired of being safe." The room went still. I should have found something careful to say. Something that kept the professional distance intact. She was a client. She was a CEO. She came from a world so far from mine it might as well have been a different planet. I was a single dad with a used truck and exactly enough money to keep things running if nothing went wrong. This had every kind of complication written on it. But none of that was what I felt. What I felt was her, the exhaustion underneath those words. The way she was still standing straight even now. The way she'd said something real and was waiting to see if it would be used against her. I took one step toward her. Then another. She didn't move back. "Laura." Her hand tightened around the stem of her glass. "Yes, you can still tell me to go home." She looked at me for what felt like a long time. Then she set the wine glass down on the work table. The small sound of glass on wood. Her hand wasn't quite steady. "Stay." I don't know who moved first after that. Maybe both of us. One moment there was still space between us. The next her hand was on my chest and I had my hand at her waist and she was looking up at me. And everything that had been careful in her face was gone. Just honesty. Just fear. Just something that had been waiting a long time for permission to exist. "This is a bad idea," she said. Her voice barely above a whisper. "Probably. You work for me." "Yeah. This could get very complicated. It already is." And then she stopped talking. The kiss wasn't careful. There was nothing practiced in it. She kissed like someone who had held back for too long and didn't remember how to do things halfway. Her fingers curled into the front of my shirt, like she needed something solid to hold on to. I kissed her back the same way. When we finally pulled apart, both of us breathing harder than we should have been, her forehead came to rest against mine. "I don't do this," she whispered. "I know, I don't let people in. I know that too." Her voice shook slightly. "Then why does this feel like the first honest thing I've done in years?" I lifted my hand to her face, ran my thumb along her cheekbone. "Maybe because it is." She closed her eyes. Then she said something I'd hear in my head for a long time after. "I hired you to fix a light," she whispered. "But that's not what I really wanted." My heart kicked hard against my ribs. "What did you want?" She opened her eyes, looked straight at me. "I wanted someone to see me and not want anything from me." Her voice cracked at the edges. "And when you didn't, when you just fixed the light and answered my question and looked at me like I was just a person, I didn't know what to do with that." I kissed her again, slower this time. And when she took my hand and led me out of the studio, I understood one thing clearly. Something had just started that I wasn't going to be able to walk back from. Some doors, once you go through them, don't work in reverse. The morning after, and what comes with it morning, came the way it always does. Too fast. First thing I noticed, the quiet. No traffic noise through the window. No upstairs neighbor dropping things at 6 a.m. No Amara calling for juice from the other room. Just soft light, high ceilings, very expensive sheets. For one long second I let myself be there. Then reality came in. I sat up, checked my phone, 6:58. My mother had Amara last night. I'd told her I'd pick up early. Laura stirred beside me, still mostly asleep, hair loose on the pillow. The careful composure completely gone. She looked younger without it, not in age, in the weight she carried. Like some measure of the burden had been set down while she slept. "What time is it?" she said, "Almost 7. "My mom has Amara. I said I'd be there early." She pushed herself up on one elbow. Looked at me clearly. "Then go get your daughter." I looked at her. "That's it? What else should it be?" "I don't know." A conversation. Panic. One of us saying we made a mistake. Her expression shifted at the last word. "Did we?" she asked. "No, too fast to fake." "No, I don't think we did. Neither do I." I got rest. Found my shirt near the chair, my jeans. At the bedroom door, I turned back. "What happens now?" I asked. She was quiet for a moment. "I don't know," she said honestly. "But I don't want this to become something we pretend didn't happen." "Me neither." She stood, crossed the room, kissed me once. Slow, certain, like a period at the end of something. "Go be a father," she said softly. "Then come back tonight if you still want to." I looked at her. I still want to. I drove to my mother's house with my head split in two. Half of me was already back in regular life. Pick up Amara, make breakfast, figure out the day. The other half was still in that studio, with a woman who had looked at me like I was the most real thing she'd found in years. My mother, Donna Jackson, opened the door before I knocked. She took one look at my face and her eyes narrowed. "You look terrible. Good morning, Mom." "That's not normal tired. That's complicated tired." From the kitchen. "Daddy." And then Amara hit me like a small collision. Arms around my waist, talking before she'd fully stopped moving, telling me about a dinosaur movie, and 2 cookies after dinner and falling asleep in her clothes. I picked her up and held her. There it was. My life. My center. My reason for all of it. But for the first time in years, it didn't feel like the only part of me that existed. Over Amara's shoulder, my mother watched me with that expression only mothers have. The one that says, "I already know, but I'm going to make you say it yourself." Later, for now I just held my daughter and stood in my mother's kitchen with the morning light coming through the window. And underneath all the confusion, one thing rose up quiet and clear. I was in trouble, not the bad kind. The kind that starts with a flickering light and a question nobody had ever thought to ask me. And the dangerous part? I wasn't looking for a way out. Light he stayed for. 2 weeks, that's how long it lasted before the world started pressing in. 2 weeks of living in 2 separate realities at the same time. 2 weeks of being one person during the day and someone slightly different at night. Not fake, not dishonest. Just expanded, like a room you didn't know was in your house until someone opened the door. The daytime version of my life didn't change. 5:30, alarm. Dark ceiling. 3 seconds of quiet. Then Amara socks feeling weird. Missing shoe. Peanut butter sandwich. Truck. Daycare drop-off. First job by 7:15. Panel replacements, outlet repairs, service calls across Houston. The kind of work that keeps your hands busy and your mind just occupied enough to function. Pick up Amara at 3:15. That was non-negotiable. Always had been. Always would be. Homework at the kitchen table. Dinner reheated from whatever I'd made Sunday. Bath. Books. The argument about one more story. Lights out by 8:30. That was the day. Then Amara would fall asleep. And I'd sit in the quiet apartment for a while. Listen to the neighborhood settle. The couple upstairs watching TV. A dog somewhere down the block. Houston at night, doing its thing. Then I'd drive across town. Laura, we didn't go to restaurants. We didn't make plans. We didn't take pictures or post anything or tell a single person. There was something fragile about what we had, and we both understood it without saying it. Like a new weld. Strong eventually, but not yet. Not while it was still cooling. Most evenings I'd find her in the studio, paint on her hands. Hair half falling out of whatever she'd tied it back with. Working on something. She'd hear me come in, put her brush down, cross the room. She kissed me the same way every time. Like she'd been waiting. Like I'd come home. I didn't know what to do with that feeling. So I just let myself have it. We'd sit on the old leather couch in the small hidden room she called her hiding place. The one with the fireplace and the bookshelves, and the blanket on the armrest. The one that looked like somewhere a real person lived. And we'd talk. Not surface talk. Not the kind of conversation you have because silence is uncomfortable. Real talk. The kind that comes out slowly. The kind you don't plan. One night she told me more about her father. Her voice went flat when she talked about him. Not because she didn't feel it, because she'd learned to manage the feeling the way you manage a chronic thing. You work around it. You don't let it stop you. He'd built a real estate company from nothing. Self-made. Proud of it. Brought clients home for dinner to show off what he'd built. And he'd introduce Laura as his daughter who was good at math. Not his daughter who'd found the $2 million accounting error in his last acquisition. Not his daughter who'd restructured the tenant contracts on 3 of his properties and increased net revenue by 30% in 1 year. Not his daughter who understood his business better than anyone else in the room. Good at math. Like that was cute. He brought me in on deals. Sometimes, she said. We were sitting close, her shoulder against mine, both of us watching the fire. When I was 22, he needed the help and I was free and I was good at it. She paused. But at dinner he'd say, "This is my daughter. She's good with numbers." Like a party trick, I said. Exactly like that. When did you stop working for him? When I started Triton. She was quiet for a moment. He thought it was a mistake. Thought I was wasting the foundation he'd built. That I should be working within his company, not starting my own. Were you scared? Starting from nothing? She thought about that seriously. No, she said. I was angry. And angry is better fuel than scared. I understood that. He died 6 years ago, she said. Heart attack. 58 years old. We hadn't spoken in 3 years by then. I'm sorry. Don't be, she said it without bitterness. Just fact. I drove to his grave the day Triton hit its first 100 million. Stood there for a while. Did it feel like anything? She looked at the fire. Empty, she said. Just empty. I tightened my arm around her. We sat with that for a while. He was wrong about you, I said. She made a small sound. Not quite a laugh. Yeah, he was. A pause. It took a long time to believe that without needing him to say it first. I didn't push. Sometimes the right thing is just to let something land. Then she asked, what about you? What happened to the company you wanted? And I told her about Darnell Cooper. His name still tasted like something bitter, not sharp the way it used to. More like old coffee. The kind of bitter that's been sitting so long it's become part of the taste of everything. Darnell and I had gone through trade school together. East Houston Technical. We'd spent 3 years learning the same things side by side. Panels, circuits, code requirements, how to work fast without cutting corners. We were good at it, both of us. By the time we were 25, we had the same dream, our own operation. Not just residential service calls, commercial contracts, office buildings, retail, industrial. The kind of work that pays real money and builds real reputation. We were going to hire a crew, build a client base, put our names on a van and make something that was ours. We saved for 2 years, $15,000 each, $30,000 total. That was enough for the startup. Tools, vehicle, licensing, insurance, first few months of operating costs. Not comfortable money, tight money, but enough to begin. The day we were supposed to sign the LLC paperwork, I showed up at the attorney's office. Waited 45 minutes. Called Darnell. No answer. Laura was very still beside me. Called again. Nothing. Went to his apartment. Gone. Everything. His furniture, his clothes, his car. I stopped. He'd moved to Dallas with his girlfriend. Taken the $30,000 with him. Brian. No contract between us yet. Nothing filed. Just money between 2 people who trusted each other. I looked at my hands. No paper trail. No legal recourse. I talked to a lawyer. Came back with nothing. Did you ever hear from him again? Once. About a year later he texted me. Said he was sorry. Said he'd pay it back when he got stable. I paused. I never responded. Have you heard from him since? No. The fire crackled. Outside, a car passed on the street. So you gave up on the company, Laura said. I gave up on trusting people with things that mattered. She was quiet for a moment. Until now? She asked. I looked at her. Until now. She reached over and took my hand. Held it. Didn't say anything. Sometimes that's the right answer. We sat there in the quiet room with the fire going, and the city outside doing everything cities do at night, and something shifted in me. Something that had been locked for a long time. Not gone, not fixed. Just loosened slightly. That's how it starts, I think. Not with some big moment. Just a small loosening. Just enough to let some air in. It was a Wednesday evening. 3 weeks in, I was at the stove making mignon, pasta, basically. Amara's current favorite. She'd decided 2 months ago that spaghetti with butter and parmesan was the greatest food ever invented, and I wasn't going to argue with a 7-year-old's food phase as long as she was eating. She was at the kitchen table with her homework spread out in front of her. Math worksheet. She was chewing on her pencil and frowning at a problem like it had personally wronged her. I stirred the pasta, checked the sauce. The apartment was quiet except for the stove noise and the sound of the evening outside. Normal, comfortable. The smell of garlic and butter filling the small kitchen. Bat was what she called me sometimes. A word she'd picked up from somewhere and made her own. Yeah, baby, are you sad? I looked over at her. She was watching me, not the homework. Me? Why would you think that? She shrugged one shoulder. You've been quiet. You're always quiet now. I turned back to the stove. I'm just thinking about grown-up stuff. Nothing for you to worry about. Is it about work? Kind of. A pause. Is it about the paint lady? I went still, kept my hands moving, kept stirring. But everything in me went still. What paint lady? The lady with all the colors. At the big house, Amira had gone back to her worksheet, pencil moving again like she was just mentioning the weather. That day Grandma picked me up from practice. I saw her through the car window when we drove past. I turned down the burner, came and sat at the table across from my daughter. She looked up. We're not seeing her anymore, I said. Kept my voice even. Calm, why not? Because some grown-up things are more important right now. She stared at me with those eyes. 7 years old and she could see right through me. Always could. From the time she was 3 and knew when I was pretending not to be tired. Kids read you with everything they have. They haven't learned yet to only use their eyes. More important than what? She asked. I reached across and touched the end of her nose. Then you, I said. You are what matters most. She put her pencil down, got up from her chair. Came around the table and climbed into my lap the way she used to do when she was smaller. She wrapped both arms around me and pressed her face against my shoulder. She didn't say anything. Just held on. I held her back, and I sat there at the kitchen table with my daughter in my arms, pasta cooling on the stove, and a hollow feeling in my chest that I didn't have a name for yet. I'd made the right choice. I was sure of that. So why did the right choice feel like it had something missing in it? The call came on a Thursday. 3 weeks after that Tuesday morning in River Oaks, I was in the middle of a panel replacement in a commercial building in Midtown. Old building. Early 1970s wiring. The kind of job that needs your full attention because the original electrician made choices that made no sense then and make even less sense now. My phone rang at 11:15. I almost didn't answer. Job like this, you don't want interruptions. But the ID said, Amara's school. I pulled off my gloves, Mr. Thompson. This is Principal Davis. Amara is physically fine, but we need you to come in. There's been an incident. 40 minutes later, I was sitting across from Principal Davis with Amara in the chair next to me. Arms crossed, face flushed, eyes red from crying that she'd stopped letting herself do. Amara was in an altercation during recess, Principal Davis said carefully, with a classmate. Mia, I looked at my daughter. You got in a fight. Her chin came up. She said something wrong. What did she say? She said her mom told her that single dads don't really care about their kids, that they only do it because they have to, not because they want to. My jaw tightened, so Amara pushed her, Principal Davis said. Mia fell and scraped her knee. I looked at Amara. She was watching me with something fragile behind her eyes. Waiting, I'm sorry, Daddy. But she was lying, right? Her voice dropped. You want to be here. You're not just here because you have to be. Something cracked open in my chest. You hear me? I said. You are the thing I want most, not because I have to, because I chose it. Every single day, Amara nodded, looked at the floor, 3 days suspension. I took her home, called dispatch, told them I was done for the day. We drove without talking. In the parking lot outside our building, I turned off the engine and sat. Amara, she looked at me. You cannot put your hands on people, no matter what they say. That's not the way, I know, but for the record, I reached over and took her hand. That girl was wrong, and her mother was wrong. You understand me? She nodded. Her eyes filled up again. You okay? I asked. Yeah. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. I just didn't want people thinking bad things about you. I know, I squeezed her hand. I know, baby. That night, after she was asleep, I called my mother. Donna Jackson came over in 20 minutes, sat at the kitchen table, listened while I told her about the school, about the fight, about what the kid had said. When I was done, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, What's really going on, Brian? I ran a hand over my face. There's someone I've been spending time with. She didn't react the way I expected. How long? She asked. About 3 weeks. Is it serious? I thought about the studio, the fire, the hidden room, the way Laura said stay like it was the most important word she'd ever used. I don't know what it is yet, I said. But it's real. My mother looked at me for a long moment. Are you happy? Just that. Simple. I looked down at the table. Yeah, I said. I am, she nodded slowly. Your father died when you were 12, she said. You remember what I did after, Mom? I worked 3 jobs. Nights, weekends, I cleaned offices, waited tables. Did people's laundry from our apartment? Her voice was steady. You know why? Because you had to, because I wanted you to have a life, not just survival. A life, she leaned forward. You're doing the same thing for Amara, and I'm proud of you for it. But Brian, her voice softened. You're allowed to want something for yourself too. I didn't say anything. If this woman makes you happy, don't let anyone make you feel guilty for that. She put her hand on my shoulder. You are a good father, the best I know. But you're also a person. I drove home thinking about what she said. My phone rang just as I pulled into the parking lot, no number. I almost let it go. Brian Thompson. Hello, Brian. The voice hit me like cold water. 5 years. But you don't forget a voice that was once the most important one in your life. Monica. Monica Reed, the mother of my child. The woman who left when Amara was 2 years old. Who walked out of our apartment one Tuesday morning and sent me a text 2 days later, saying she couldn't do it. She wasn't ready. She needed to find herself. Amara had been 22 months old. I'd stood in our kitchen holding my daughter and reading that text 3 times. Then I put my phone in my pocket and made Amara breakfast. That was the last time I heard from Monica Reed. 5 years. No birthday cards. No calls at Christmas. No texts asking how Amara was doing. Nothing. She had vanished as completely as if she'd never existed, and I had built a life in the shape of that absence. Solid. Functional. Ours, is this any way to greet the mother of your child? She said. You lost that title when you walked out. A pause. When she spoke again, her voice was prepared. Practiced. I made a mistake, Brian. The biggest one of my life. And I want to fix it. You want to fix it. I almost laughed. 5 years. No contact. Not one birthday card. And now you want to fix it. I was young. I wasn't ready. I had postpartum depression I didn't understand and didn't have the support to manage. Her voice stayed level. Rehearsed. I've spent the last 3 years in therapy. I understand what happened to me. I understand what I did. What do you want, Monica? A beat. I'm stable now. I'm married. His name is Victor Bryant. He's an attorney. Another pause. Letting that land. We have a home. I've done the work to become someone Amara can have in her life. Every muscle in my body went tight. Brian, I'm filing for joint custody. The room went white. My attorney will contact you next week. I want this to be civil. I want this to be about Amara, not about us. You're insane. I'm a mother who made a serious mistake and is trying to do the right thing now. Still calm. Still prepared. The court tends to look favorably on that. She doesn't know you. You are a stranger to my daughter. That's what the custody process is for. To create a path toward her knowing me over my dead body. It's not up to you, Brian. Her voice didn't waver. It's up to a judge. And when they see that I have a stable home, a supportive spouse, documented treatment for a medical condition, she let that sit. I think they'll see things differently than you do. The line went dead. I stood in my apartment holding the phone. Heart hammering. Hands tight. That specific kind of rage that has nowhere to go, because there's nothing in front of you to push back against. I called Laura. She picked up on the first ring. Hey, Monica's back. My voice was flat. Amara's mother. She called. She's filing for joint custody. Her husband's a lawyer. She says she has a stable home and documented therapy, and the court loves a mother who comes back. Silence on the other end then. Brian. She's been gone 5 years, Laura. Not one word. And now she's going to walk into a courtroom and tell a judge she's changed and she deserves a second chance, and I stopped. Forced myself to breathe. I can't lose Amara. You're not going to lose her. You don't know that, Brian. You don't know how this works. My voice came out harder than I meant it to. Money talks in family court. Her husband is an attorney. They have a house, they have 2 incomes and a spare bedroom and a backyard. What do I have? An 800-square-foot apartment and a 7-year-old sleeping on a sofa bed, quiet. Then Laura. Let me help. No, Brian. No, I said it clearly. If I take anything from you, anything at all, Jeffrey Lewis, whoever Monica hires, they will build a case around it. They'll say I'm using you, that I'm irresponsible, that I'm chasing something instead of focusing on my daughter. It'll make everything worse. That's not fair. Fair has nothing to do with it. It's about how things look. My chest felt like it was being compressed. I cannot give them anything to use. A long silence. So what are you saying? Her voice had gone quiet. I'm saying we have to stop. Until this is over, you're pushing me away. I'm protecting Amara. From me? From what they'll make of us. I pressed my hand over my eyes. Laura, I cannot lose my daughter. I cannot. She is everything. She is the only thing I've done right. 3 heartbeats of silence. When she spoke, her voice was careful, controlled, the way it had been when I first met her. Before any of this, I understand, she said. Your daughter comes first. She should, Laura. You don't have to explain. I understand. The line went quiet, then, so softly I almost missed it. I hope you win. Click. I sat down on the floor of my kitchen. Just sat there. The apartment was quiet. Amara asleep. Houston going about its night outside. Everything normal. Everything the same. But something felt differently broken than it had before. Not just the Monica situation. Not just the custody threat. Something else. The particular loneliness of having found something real and then having to set it down because the timing was wrong. Because the world has no interest in your timing. I sat there on the kitchen floor for a long time. Then I got up, went to check on Amara, stood in the doorway and watched her breathe. This is why, I told myself. This is the only why that matters. I believed it, I still do. But belief doesn't fill the quiet. The attorney and the home study. Next day I called Legal Aid of Houston. Got an appointment with an attorney named Lorraine Mitchell. She had an office on the 4th floor of a building in Midtown that smelled like old carpet and strong coffee. Her desk was stacked with files. Her eyes had the particular quality of someone who has seen every version of every situation and is no longer surprised by any of them. She looked at what I gave her and sighed. Mr. Thompson. She folded her hands on the desk. I'm going to be honest with you. Please, your case is weak. I'd expected it. Still landed hard. She walked me through it. Monica's documented treatment. The stability narrative. 2-income household. Established home. Attorney spouse. Postpartum depression is a recognized medical condition, she said. Courts are often sympathetic to mothers who sought treatment and rebuilt their lives. The fact that she was absent doesn't automatically disqualify her from parental rights. She never sent a birthday card, which we'll argue. But Jeffrey Lewis, and I'm assuming it's Lewis, Monica's husband, knows him. He'll counter with the medical history. He'll make absence look like illness. He's good at that. What do we have? Your record of primary caregiving. 5 years uninterrupted. School attendance, medical records, community involvement. Character witnesses. She looked at me over her reading glasses. Who can speak to your relationship with Amara? Who's watched you be her father? My mother. Who else? I thought about my life. How small the circle had become. Working and parenting didn't leave much room for the kind of fruits that produce character witnesses. Her teacher. Maybe a couple of my clients who've seen me with her. Get them. All of them. She closed the folder. And Mr. Thompson, if there's anything in your personal life that could be used against you, tell me now. Laura's face in my mind. Immediately, substance issues, criminal record, unstable relationships. Anything a sharp attorney could stand up in court and turn into a narrative about your judgment? No. Lorraine Mitchell looked at me for a moment. Are you sure? I'm sure. She let it go. 2 days later, Deborah White knocked on my door. Social worker, home study. She had a clipboard and a professional smile and eyes that cataloged everything they landed on. She walked through the apartment. All 800 square feet of it. She saw the sofa bed. Made a note. She saw Amara's corner. The stuffed animals. The books stacked in a milk crate. The drawings taped to the wall. Made a note. She saw the small kitchen, the one bathroom, the second-hand furniture that was clean and functional and entirely without the kind of excess that looks good in a report. She asked questions. Work schedule, childcare arrangements, Amara's friends, Amara's routine. I answered everything honestly. Every answer was the truth, and every answer sounded like what it was. A man doing everything he could with exactly what he had. When she was done, she gathered her clipboard. I'll also be visiting Ms. Reed's residence, she said. The report will go to the court in 2 weeks. Thank you, I said. She left. I stood in the middle of my apartment and looked at it through her eyes. Then I thought about Monica's house. 4 bedrooms. Finished playroom. Backyard with a wooden playset that Victor Bryant probably bought from a specialty store and assembled on a Saturday afternoon to make sure it would show well in the evaluation. I knew what this report was going to say. I knew. That night after Amara was in bed, I went out to my truck, sat in the dark of the parking lot, and I called Laura. She answered on the second ring. Her voice when she heard mine. She didn't say anything right away. Just, Brian, and then I broke, not loudly. I'm not that kind. But something in my voice when I started talking gave it away immediately. I'm going to lose her, I said. Deborah White saw the apartment. She saw the sofa bed. She's going to see Monica's house. And her report is going to say what reports say when they see a cramped apartment versus a 4-bedroom home with a yard. And Jeffrey Lewis is going to stand up in that courtroom and make it sound like Amara is living in a place that barely qualifies, and my voice stopped. I've given her everything I have. Everything. And it's never going to be enough. It's never, Brian. Laura's voice was steady. Careful. Where are you? Parking lot. In my truck. I'm coming over. Don't. Laura, you don't have to. I'm already in my car. A pause. Send me your address. I sat there for 10 seconds, then I sent it. 20 minutes later, headlights turned into the lot. Her black sedan looked exactly wrong in that parking lot, and exactly right to me. She got out, walked straight to my truck, opened the passenger door without asking, got in, closed it, looked at me. Tell me everything, she said. So I did. All of it. Lorraine Mitchell. The hearing timeline. Deborah White and her clipboard and the way she'd written down that Amara slept on a sofa bed. The math of Monica's house against my apartment. The particular helplessness of being someone who has done everything right and still might lose. Laura listened, didn't interrupt, didn't offer solutions. Just held my hand and let me run out of words. When I did, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You are not going to lose her. You can't know that. I know that judges care about stability, consistency, love. Not bedroom count." She turned toward me. Her hand tightened around mine. "You have been there every single day for 5 years. That matters, Brian. That is the whole case. Monica has 4 bedrooms. Monica has money." "That's different." Her voice was direct. Not harsh, just clear. "You have shown up. Every morning, every nightmare. Every scraped knee and every school play and every Tuesday that nobody was watching. That is what courts are actually looking for." I looked at her. In the dim parking lot light. In my beat-up truck in a lot that smelled like exhaust. "You don't have to be here," I said. "I know. You could be anywhere. I know that too. So why?" "Because you were the first person in 10 years who looked at me and didn't want anything." Her voice was quiet but steady. "You just fixed my light and answered my question and came back the next day ready to do good work. That's it. That's all you did." She looked at me. But it was the most real thing I'd felt in a long time. I pulled her across the console and kissed her. Not gentle, not careful. The kind of kiss that has everything in it. Relief and fear and something that didn't have a name yet but felt permanent. She kissed me back just as hard. When we pulled apart, her forehead rested against mine. "I can't ask you to be part of this," I said. "The case. You testifying would make things worse. Lewis would—" "I know." She pulled back slightly, looked at me. "I'm not going to testify. Okay. But I'm not disappearing either." Her eyes were clear. "Certain. You can push me away all you want. I'm not going anywhere." I looked at her for a long moment. "You said that like you mean it." "I do mean it." She squeezed my hand. 2 weeks until the hearing," she said. "We have 2 weeks. Tell me what you need." Fire report. 3 days before the hearing, 2:17 a.m. My phone lit up the dark ceiling of the bedroom. "Laura, Brian." Her voice was different, tight, controlled in the way voices get when something real is happening. "There's a fire at the downtown office tower. Building 3, the electrical system failed. Fire department can't figure out why it keeps reigniting." I was already sitting up. "What's happening?" "They've cut the main power twice, and it keeps coming back. Something's feeding it. They can't find it, and there are people still inside." "Send me the location." "You don't have to, Laura." "Send me the location." I was dressed before she finished sending it. My mother was on the couch. She'd been staying more since the custody case heated up. I left a note. "Emergency job. Back soon." She'd understand the scene was controlled chaos. 2 fire trucks, 3 police vehicles, smoke coming from the 4th floor. Office workers on the sidewalk in jackets pulled over their pajamas. That specific stunned look people get when something impossible to an ordinary building on an ordinary night. Laura was near the incident commander. Hair pulled back fast, jacket thrown over a sleep shirt, no makeup. She saw me across the lot and the relief on her face hit me somewhere I wasn't expecting. "This is Brian Thompson," she told the commander. "My electrician." The commander, a broad man named Reyes, looked skeptical. "We've killed the main twice," he said. "Fire suppresses, then 20 minutes later it's back. Something's re-energizing but we can't locate the source." I looked at Laura. "Do you have the building plans?" She pulled them up on her phone. Architectural drawings, electrical schematics for all 6 floors plus basement. I looked at them for 3 minutes. Something cold and clear settled in my brain. The way it does when the problem becomes visible. There I pointed to the basement section. "Backup generator. Looks like original installation. Probably 1983 or 84. If it was wired incorrectly, and in buildings this age, that's not rare. It creates an arc flash every time the system tries to engage." Commander Reyes. "Someone would have to go down to shut it off manually. Building's not structurally stable yet," said one of the firefighters. "Then we move fast." I looked at Reyes. "I need gear and a flashlight. Give me 10 minutes." He studied me for a moment. Reading me then, Santos. Get him suited up. Laura caught my arm as I moved past her. Brian, her voice was low. You don't have to do this, I looked at her. 40 people work in that building, Laura. She held my gaze. Let go. Santos and I went in through the service entrance. The basement stairs were clear. The smoke was thicker here, sitting low but breathable in the mask. We moved through it with flashlights cutting the gray. Found the generator behind a false wall panel in the northeast corner. It was old. Heavy steel housing, rust at the seams. Wiring that had been installed by someone working fast and not thinking about the next 40 years. I traced the connections. Found it in under 2 minutes. Neutral and hot lead swapped. Simple mistake. Catastrophic consequence. Every time the system tried to self-restore, it was generating a short circuit. Every short circuit was an ignition point. I need to kill the fuel line first, I told Santos. Then disconnect the leads in sequence. Tell me what you need me to do. He held the light exactly where I needed it. Didn't move. Didn't rush me. 7 minutes. When I pulled the last connection, the whole system went dead. Compliant silence. Then Reyes on Santos' radio. Fire's out. Whatever you did down there, it worked. We climbed back up. Laura was right there when we came through the door. She didn't say anything at first. Just looked at me for a moment. Then she hugged me. Hard. Like she was making sure I was solid. You're insane, she said into my shoulder. You keep saying that. Because it keeps being true. Commander Reyes came over. Shook my hand. Held it for a moment. Hell of a job, he said. You just saved a lot of people from a very bad morning. He reached into his jacket and handed me a card. I'm writing this up in my incident report. Full detail. In case it's ever useful to you, he said it simply. No wink, no suggestion. Just professional courtesy. I took the card. I didn't fully understand what it meant until later that night. Lying on Laura's couch in the hidden room while she slept beside me, the fire still on in the fireplace, Houston quiet outside. I took out the card and looked at it, in case it's ever useful, and something shifted, not a plan exactly, more like a door I hadn't seen before, and now I could see it. I held that thought carefully on the way home at sunrise, past the glittering office towers, past the neighborhoods just starting to wake up, past all of it. 2 days until the hearing. Something had just changed. I just didn't know yet if it would be enough. The text message the night before the hearing, 11:48 p.m. I was at the kitchen table. Amira asleep. Donna staying over on the couch. The apartment quiet the way apartments are quiet at midnight. Not peaceful, just waiting. My phone buzzed. Laura, I hope you're okay. 3 weeks of distance. The custody case pressing down on everything. And that's how she started. I stared at the screen, typed 5 different things, deleted all of them, sent the truth instead. Not really. 3 dots appeared immediately. Me neither. A pause then. I miss you. My chest cracked open. I miss you too. Nothing's changed though, I know. Another pause. Longer. Then the last one. The hearing is tomorrow. I hope you win. Amara needs her father. The one she already has. I set the phone down on the table, looked at the ceiling, thought about Amara asleep down the hall, about Monica's prepared voice on the phone, about Lorraine Mitchell and her honest assessment, and the particular sound of a case that might not be winnable. Thought about a parking lot at midnight, and a woman who drove across town to sit in an old truck and hold my hand. I didn't sleep much that night, just sat at the table until the sky started going gray. Then I put on my suit, the light he stayed for. The suit still didn't fit right. I'd bought it 6 years ago for my grandfather's funeral, back when I was 28 and thinner, and hadn't spent 6 years carrying the weight of a life built entirely on my own. The shoulders were close. The jacket pulled a little across the back. I stood in the bathroom mirror at 6:15 a.m. and looked at myself. This was what I had. This was who I was walking into that courtroom as. A 34-year-old electrician in a slightly too small funeral suit with a used truck in the parking lot and an apartment that a social worker had cataloged with careful, neutral notes. I thought about what Lorraine Mitchell had said. Your case is weak. I thought about Deborah White and her clipboard, about Monica's 4-bedroom house, and Victor Bryant's attorney credentials and the narrative Jeffrey Lewis was going to build about stability and resources, and what a child deserved. Then I thought about Amara, the way she'd said, you want to be here, right? You're not just here because you have to be. I straightened the jacket, looked myself in the eye. Yeah, baby, I want to be here. Donna Jackson was in the kitchen making coffee when I came out. She looked at me for a long moment, the way mothers do, reading everything, saying less than half of it. Sit down, she said. Eat something first. I'm not hungry. I didn't ask if you were hungry. Sit down. I sat down. She put toast and eggs in front of me. sat across the table with her own coffee. Watched me eat. Your grandfather wore that suit to every important thing he ever did, she said. Job interviews, court dates, his own wedding rehearsal dinner. She wrapped both hands around her mug. He said it didn't matter if it fit perfect. It mattered that you showed up in your best. I looked down at the plate. What if my best isn't enough today? She was quiet for a moment. Then you find out and you figure out the next thing, she said. That's all. That's always been all. She reached across and touched my hand. But Brian, your best has been enough every single day for 5 years. Don't let one courtroom tell you otherwise. I ate the eggs. Lorraine Mitchell met me at the courthouse steps at 8:45. Black blazer, reading glasses pushed up on her head, a leather folder under one arm. She looked sharp, tired in equal measure. Ready? She asked. No, good. She fell into step beside me. Nervous means you understand what's at stake. Overconfident people lose cases. She pushed through the heavy doors. Stay calm. Answer only what you're asked. When Lewis pushes, and he will push, don't take the bait. Got it. And Brian, she stopped in the hallway. Looked at me directly. You have been that little girl's father every day of her life that she can remember. No attorney on earth can take that record away from you. I nodded. We went in. Monica was already there. She was sitting at the petitioner's table with Victor Bryant beside her. He was exactly what I'd imagined from his voice on the phone. Mid-40s, well-built, the kind of man who wore expensive clothes naturally, without effort, confident the way money makes you confident. Jeffrey Lewis sat on Monica's other side. He had the particular energy of an attorney who was used to winning, organized, alert. His suit cost more than my truck. Monica looked up when I came in. Our eyes met across the room. She looked different, professionally styled hair, careful makeup, a navy dress that said serious without saying severe. She'd prepared for this appearance the same way she'd prepared her testimony, deliberately, strategically, with full understanding of how things needed to look. She gave me a small, sad smile. Like we were old friends with a complicated history. Like she hadn't disappeared from our daughter's life for 5 years without a single phone call. I looked away. The courtroom itself was what courtrooms always are. Fluorescent lights, worn floors, the faint institutional smell of a building that processes human pain on a daily basis and has stopped noticing. I'd been in rooms like this twice before, for the divorce proceedings. I'd hoped never to come back. Here I was. The judge entered at 9:02, Honorable Patricia Simmons, late 50s, silver-streaked hair pulled back, eyes that had evaluated 1,000 cases, exactly like this one, and had developed the ability to cut through performance and find what was real underneath. She settled her robe, set her reading glasses in place, and opened the folder on her desk. Case number 2024 FC 1147. Reed versus Thompson. Petition for modification of custody arrangement. She looked up. Counsel, are we ready to proceed? Jeffrey Lewis stood first. Lewis was good. I'll give him that. He opened carefully. No aggression. Warm, even. This wasn't about attacking Brian Thompson, he said. Brian Thompson had done a commendable job in difficult circumstances. But circumstances change. And the question before the court wasn't about the past. It was about what Amara needed now. What she deserved going forward. Monica took the stand. She was composed. Precise. She told her story clearly. The postpartum depression, the inability to cope, the decision she made in crisis that she would spend the rest of her life regretting. She'd gotten help. Real help. 3 years of therapy, documented and submitted to the court. She'd rebuilt her life, found stability, found Victor, built a home. I'm not here to take Amara from her father, she said. Her voice was measured and soft. I'm here because she deserves to know her mother. And I'm ready to be that mother now. The judge made notes. Lewis presented the home study. 4 bedrooms. Dedicated playroom. Backyard with play equipment. 2 stable incomes, professional household. Everything Amara would gain. Then Lorraine stood up, Your Honor. Brian Thompson has been Amara's sole parent for 5 years. Not by accident. Not by default. By choice and by daily action. She set her own folder on the desk. He has never missed a school conference. Never missed a doctor's appointment. Never missed a single event that mattered to his daughter. He built his entire schedule, his entire professional life, around being present for her. She paused. Ms. Reed has not sent a birthday card. Lewis started to object. The judge held up one hand. I'd like to hear from Mr. Thompson directly, she said. I stood up, my hands were steady. I was surprised by that, Your Honor. I looked at her. Not at Monica. Not at Lewis. At the judge. I won't stand here and tell you my life is easy or my apartment is big. It's not. I work long hours. Amara sleeps on a sofa bed because I haven't been able to afford a 2-bedroom yet. I paused. Let that sit. But every morning for 5 years, I have been the one to wake her up. I've been the one to find the missing shoe, make the sandwich, drive her to school. I've been there for every nightmare, and every first day, and every time she needed something in the middle of the night. The room was quiet. I'm not asking for a medal. I'm asking this court to understand that what I've built with my daughter isn't about square footage. It's about something I showed up and created every single day. My voice stayed level, and I will keep showing up. Whether this court requires it or not. Judge Simmons looked at me for a moment. Then she made a note. Lewis cleared his throat. Your Honor, while Mr. Thompson's dedication is noted, the home study clearly indicates. The courtroom door opened. I heard it before I saw it, the soft sound of the door, the slight shift in the room's attention. I turned. Laura Clark walked into the courtroom, navy suit, low heels, hair pulled back, every inch of her composed and deliberate and unmistakably herself, the CEO of Triton Properties, one of the most recognized names in Houston commercial real estate, walking into a family court hearing like she belonged there. She was carrying a folder. She crossed the room to Lorraine's table and leaned down, said something quietly, placed the folder in front of her. Then she sat down in the gallery. Lewis had already seen her. His eyes tracked her from the moment she came in. I watched him recalibrate, the slight adjustment of posture, the reassessment happening behind his eyes. Judge Simmons had noticed too, Miss Mitchell, she said. Something to add? Lorraine stood. Your Honor, I'd like to call an additional witness. Laura Clark. Lewis was on his feet immediately. Objection. This witness was not disclosed in the original list, Your Honor. Miss Clark has direct material knowledge of Mr. Thompson's character and conduct over the past 4 months. The documentation she's provided is directly relevant to the question of stability and parenting priority. Lorraine held up the folder. I'd ask the court's indulgence. Judge Simmons looked at the folder. Looked at Lewis. Looked at Laura in the gallery. I'll hear the witness, she said. Objection noted and overruled. Miss Clark, please approach. Laura walked to the stand, got sworn in, sat down. She looked calm. She always looked calm. But I knew her well enough now to see the tension healthily in her shoulders. The deliberate steadiness of someone who has decided to do something and is doing it all the way. Lorraine approached. Miss Clark, how do you know Brian Thompson? I hired him approximately 4 months ago to handle electrical work at several of my properties. And in that time, what did you observe about Mr. Thompson's conduct as a parent? Laura looked at the judge. Directly. The way she always spoke. To the person who needed to understand, Mr. Thompson never began work before 3:15 in the afternoon, she said, without exception. Because that's when Amara gets out of school. She opened the folder in front of her. Over 4 months, I offered him overtime on 23 separate occasions. Emergency calls, weekend rates, significant additional income. She turned a page. He declined everyone that conflicted with Amara's schedule. Every single one. I have the documentation here, emails, text messages, call logs. Lorraine passed the folder to the judge. Additionally, Laura continued, 3 days ago, at 2:17 in the morning, I called Mr. Thompson about an emergency fire at one of my office buildings. He came. He identified a faulty backup generator that was causing repeated ignition. He went into an unstable building to disable it manually. She paused. Because 40 families depended on the jobs in that building. She looked at the judge steadily. That is who is raising Amara Thompson. A man who shows up when it matters. Not because it's easy. Not because someone is watching. Because that is who he is. The room was very quiet. Lewis stood. Your Honor, I'd like to cross-examine. Proceed. He approached with the measured confidence of someone about to dismantle something, Miss Clark. You and Mr. Thompson have a personal relationship. Correct? Yes, a romantic relationship. Yes. So you are, in fact, testifying on behalf of a man you are romantically involved with. He let that sit. A billionaire testifying for her boyfriend. I'm testifying to 4 months of documented observation, Laura said. The documentation exists independent of my feelings. But your feelings exist, yes, and they color your testimony. My testimony is supported by written records that predate this hearing by months. Her voice didn't shift. You're welcome to question the records. What I'm questioning is your objectivity. Then question the 23 declined overtime requests, Laura said. Question the 3:15 start times. Question the fire department incident report. She looked at him without expression. The feelings are mine. The facts belong to the record. Lewis changed direction. Mr. Thompson never asked you for help with this case? No. Never asked you to testify? No. You came here entirely on your own initiative. Yes, because you wanted to help him. Because I wanted to tell the truth. She looked at the judge, not Lewis. He didn't ask me to be here. He told me not to come. A pause. I came anyway. Because Amara Thompson has had her father present every day of her life. And I wasn't going to let that be argued away without saying what I know. Lewis studied her for a moment. He was good. But he'd run out of useful angles. No further questions, he said. Judge Simmons was already reading the fire department incident report. She read it twice. Then she set it down and removed her reading glasses. I'd like a 30-minute recess, she said. The gavel came down. I found Laura in the hallway. She was standing at the window at the far end of the corridor, looking out at the Houston skyline. The morning light coming in sideways, catching the glass towers downtown. I walked up beside her. For a moment neither of us said anything. You weren't supposed to come, I said. I know. Lewis is going to. Lewis already did everything he could do with it. She turned to look at me. He has 4 months of documentation and a fire department incident report. That's not something you can argue around. Laura, Brian, her voice was quiet. Certain, I know you told me not to. I know you had reasons. They were good reasons. She held my gaze. But I was not going to sit in that house and let Jeffrey Lewis stand up in a courtroom and make you sound like someone who isn't enough. Not when I know different. I looked at her for a long moment, then I pulled her into a hug. Not a careful hug. A real one. The kind that doesn't worry about who sees or what it means. She held on just as hard. Lorraine Mitchell came down the hallway and found us there. She stopped a few feet away. For what it's worth, she said, looking at Laura. That was one of the cleanest pieces of testimony I've seen in a long time. The documentation was exactly right. The delivery was exactly right. Will it be enough? I asked. Lorraine was quiet for a moment. I think so, she said. I think so. We went back in. Judge Simmons returned at exactly the 30-minute mark. She settled in her seat, put her reading glasses back on, looked at both tables, then she spoke. I've reviewed the complete record in this matter. The home study, the character testimony, the documentation submitted this morning, the incident report. She set her hands flat on the desk. I want to address both parties directly. She looked at Monica first. Ms. Reed, your journey towards stability and healing is noted. Postpartum depression is a serious medical condition, and the fact that you sought treatment reflects genuine effort. Her voice was steady, unhurried. However, parental rights exist alongside parental responsibility. You were absent from your daughter's life for 5 years. Not due to incapacity that prevented all contact. You chose over 5 years not to reach out. Monica's expression stayed composed. But her jaw was tight. Your desire to reconnect with Amara is understandable, the judge continued. It may, in time, be in Amara's interest. But the court does not restructure a child's established life based on a parent's readiness. It does so based on the child's needs. She turned to me. Mr. Thompson, your apartment is small. Your work hours are long. Your daughter currently sleeps on a sofa bed. She looked at me steadily. The home study noted all of this. My chest was tight. It also noted a clean, organized home. A child who is thriving academically. A father who has not missed a single scheduled obligation in 5 years. She picked up the fire department report. Looked at it one more time, then set it down, and it noted something the home study couldn't capture. The testimony this morning described a man who, when given the choice between his own financial comfort and his daughter's schedule, chose his daughter. 23 times over 4 months, she looked at me. That is not a small thing, Mr. Thompson. That is a sustained pattern of priority. That is what parenting looks like when it's real. The room was absolutely quiet. The petition for joint custody is denied. I heard it. Let it land. Amara Thompson will remain in her father's primary custody. Ms. Reed is granted supervised visitation. 2 hours, twice monthly, at a neutral facility. If after 6 months the relationship demonstrates stability and benefit to Amara, the court will consider revisiting the arrangement. The gavel came down. Court adjourned. Monica was crying. Victor had his arm around her. Jeffrey Lewis was already gathering his files with the practiced neutrality of a man who loses sometimes and knows how to move through it. Lorraine shook my hand. Both of hers. Firm, you won, she said. I nodded. It didn't feel like winning exactly. It felt like surviving something real and coming out the other side still standing. Still whole. Still Amara's father. That was enough. That was everything. We met at Briargrove Park. Donna had Amara. I'd called from the courthouse steps. Just those 2 words. We won. She hadn't said anything for a moment. Then she'd said, thank God. 20 minutes, Laura drove separately. Parked spot down from my truck. Amara saw me from the swing set and launched herself off mid-arc. Landed running. Hit me at full speed, both arms around my waist, talking before she'd fully stopped moving. Grandma said you went to a courthouse. Are you in trouble? Did you win? What happened? Can we get ice cream? I picked her up, held her. Everything's good, Peanut. You smell like the courthouse, yeah. Sorry about that. She leaned back to look at me. Read my face the way she always did. With everything, not just her eyes. You're okay, she decided. I'm okay. She looked past me then at Laura, standing a few feet back, hands in her jacket pockets, not pushing forward. Waiting, Amara looked at her for a long moment. You're the paint lady, she said. Laura smiled. Not the composed CEO smile, the real one. The one I'd seen in the hidden room, in the dark truck, in the studio with the lights finally right. That's me, she said. Amara squirmed down out of my arms. Walked up to Laura with the complete directness of a 7-year-old who has not yet learned to soften her assessments. She looked up at her. You have paint on your hand right now, she said. Laura looked at her left hand. There it was. Small dark smudge near the thumb. I was working this morning before I had to go somewhere important, Laura said. What were you making? I'm not sure yet. Sometimes you don't know until it's done. Amara considered this with great seriousness. Can you teach me? Absolutely. Anytime you want. Amara looked back at me. Is she your girlfriend? There it was. Just like that. No preamble. I glanced at Laura. She was watching me. That steady, careful, honest look. Yeah, I said. She is. Amara processed this for approximately 1 second. Okay. Can we get ice cream now? And that was that. We walked to the ice cream cart at the east end of the park. Amara held my hand and talked the entire way. About school, about her soccer team, about a book series she'd started, about why strawberry ice cream was objectively better than chocolate, and she was prepared to argue this point with anyone. Laura walked beside me. Listening, asking questions at the right moments, laughing at the right places, not performing, just present. When Amara ran ahead to the cart to examine the options with full concentrated attention, Donna stepped close to me. She'd been quiet the whole walk. Watching, she's good with her, she said. Yeah, not performing. Actually listening, I know. Donna looked at Laura for another moment. I was wrong, she said quietly. What I said before, about people like her just visiting. She turned to me. Her eyes were clear and a little wet. I was scared for you, and I let that make me unfair, Mom. I'm saying it because it needs to be said. She pressed her hand to my arm. She drove across town at midnight and sat in a parking lot for you, Brian. She walked into a courthouse and told the truth when she didn't have to. She shook her head slightly. That's not visiting. That's showing up. I looked at my mother. Thank you, I said. Don't thank me. Just be happy. She squeezed my arm. That's all I've ever wanted for you. Just be happy. Amara came running back with a strawberry cone and the energy of someone who has just won an important argument with themselves. Bah, I got you chocolate, because even though strawberry is better, you always say you want chocolate, and I respect that. She handed me the cone with the solemnity of a diplomatic gesture. Laura made a sound that was mostly hidden laughter. I looked at my daughter. You know what, Amara? I think you might be the best person I know. She considered this. Probably, she agreed. Can we go on the swings now? After the park, after ice cream, after Donna headed home with a long look back, and a hand held up in something that wasn't quite a wave, and wasn't quite a blessing, but was both. After all of it, Amara fell asleep early. She'd had a big day without knowing she'd had a big day. That's the thing about kids. They absorb what they're ready for and let the rest pass over them. She'd met Laura properly, gotten ice cream, done 300 swings, and declared it a good day. Asleep by 7:30. I checked on her. Stood in the doorway and watched her breathe. She was curled around the stuffed elephant she'd had since she was 3. The elephant was missing one button eye and had been repaired with a safety pin. I'd offered to get her a new one twice. She'd refused both times. This one is already my friend, she'd said. You don't replace friends. I stood there for a long minute. Then I went to the back steps. Laura was already there. Sitting on the concrete steps, jacket on, 2 cans of soda on the step beside her. I sat down next to her. We didn't talk right away. Just sat there in the Houston evening. The warm weight of it. The neighborhood sounds. Someone's music a few houses over, a lawn sprinkler on a late timer, the distant constant hum of a city that never actually stops. How are you? She asked. Better than this morning. I turned the soda can in my hands, tired. But better, she nodded. Laura, I looked at her. What you did? Today. You already thanked me. I'm thanking you again, Brian. You walked into that courtroom by yourself. Knowing Lewis was going to go after you. Knowing it was going to become public. Our relationship, I shook my head. You didn't have to do any of that. She looked at me steadily. I know I didn't have to, she said. I wanted to. She paused. There's a difference, a big one. Yes, the sprinkler clicked off somewhere. The music faded. I want to say something to you, I said. And I want to say it right. She waited. I have spent 5 years making sure Amara had everything she needed, and I don't regret one day of it. Not 1 hour. I looked down at my hands. These hands, the work in them. But somewhere in there I started thinking that was all I was supposed to want. Like wanting something for myself on top of it made me less serious. Less committed, Brian. Let me finish. I looked up at her. You asked me that first morning if I liked my work, and I'd been doing the work for 10 years, and nobody had ever asked me that. I paused. That question was the first time in a long time that someone saw me as a person, and not just as someone's dad or someone's contractor. She was very still. I don't know what this is yet, I said. I don't know what it becomes. I know it's complicated, and I know it's real, and I know those two things don't cancel each other out. I held her gaze, but I'm done hiding it. I'm done apologizing for it, and I'm done pretending that wanting this makes me a worse father. She let out a slow breath. Then she picked up her soda can and touched it against mine. Okay, she said. Just that, but it was the right word. Okay, I said back. We sat there a while longer, the evening doing what evenings do. Getting quieter, getting cooler. The city settling into itself. I want to say something too, Laura said eventually. Say it. She looked out at the small square of yard behind the building. The concrete and the one tree and the neighbor's fence. I built Triton to prove something to a man who died 6 years ago. I've been doing it so long that I forgot to ask at some point whether I was building it for him or for me. She turned her soda can in her hands. I think for a long time it was both. And then it was mostly him. And I didn't notice when that happened. And now I'm trying to figure out what it looks like when it's just for me. She glanced at me. What I actually want. Not what proves something. Not what keeps me safe. She paused. What I actually want. What do you want? She looked back at the yard. This, she said simply. A back step, a soda. Someone honest next to me, she almost smiled. I've had better views. A lot better. This one's better though. I looked at her. She looked at me. I still want to build my own company, I said. Coal Electrical. My own crew. My own contracts. I haven't given that up, I know. It might take a few years. I'm aware of how businesses work, and I'm still just a... Don't, she said. Quiet, but firm. Don't finish that sentence, I stopped. You are a man who does honest work with integrity, she said. Who built a real human being while doing it. Who went into a burning building in the middle of the night because 40 families needed him to. She looked at me directly. Don't put just in front of that. I looked at her for a long moment. She meant it. Every word, not performance. Not generosity, just truth. The way she always, when it mattered. Okay, I said okay. I reached over and took her hand. She let me. We sat there on the back steps of my 800-square-foot apartment until the sky went fully dark and the stars came out over Houston. You can see a few of them even through the light pollution if you know where to look. And neither of us moved because neither of us needed to be anywhere else. Epilogue. 6 moves later, the apartment was still 800 square feet. That hadn't changed, but the corner by the window was different now. There was a small easel there, child-sized, a wooden stool beside it, a cup of brushes, a set of acrylic paints that had been used with a 7-year-old's full commitment. There was blue on the baseboard, a yellow streak across the stool, what appeared to be a handprint in green on the wall, at knee height that we'd decided was character rather than damage. Amara's paintings were on the refrigerator, all of them. Every one, a horse, a house that was mostly a rectangle with a triangle. What she told me was a self-portrait, which I believed because she'd painted it with a very serious expression and said it was exactly right. A painting she'd done with Laura one Saturday that was abstract blues and greens and which Amara said was the ocean, even though neither of them had been to the ocean in months. It was on the refrigerator with everything else. I was under the kitchen on a Tuesday evening, fixing a connection that had been dripping since February. I'd been saying I'd fix it since February. Amara was at the table doing homework. 3rd grade now. The math had gotten harder. Laura was on the couch with her laptop, feet tucked under her, one sock missing. That was always how she ended up by the end of the evening. She'd arrive put together and by 8 o'clock one sock would have simply disappeared. Dad, Amara said, yeah, what's 7 times 8? 56, Laura, is that right? That's right, okay. Dad and Laura agree, so it's definitely right. I came out from under the sink, checked the connection, turned the water on, watched for a drip, nothing fixed. I sat back on the kitchen floor and looked around the room. Amara bent over her homework, pencil moving, lips pressed together the way they did when she was concentrating. Laura on the couch, laptop open, reading something that had made her frown slightly at the screen. The light was good. I'd replaced the kitchen fixture 2 months ago. Better color temperature. More even spread. Laura had noticed it immediately. She always noticed light. It's warmer in here, she'd said. Did you do something? Fix the light, I'd said. You and lights, she'd said. Like it meant something. It did, fixed. Laura asked now without looking up from her screen. Fixed, how long did it take? She looked up. Found my eyes across the room, that same small smile. You said 10 minutes in September. I'm getting better. You keep saying that. Because it keeps being true. Amara looked up from her worksheet. Looked at me. Looked at Laura. Looked back at her homework with the expression of someone who has decided that whatever is happening between the adults is their own business. Can we have pasta tonight? She asked. We had pasta Monday. It's a different day. Laura closed her laptop. I'll make it, she said. I know where everything is. Amara looked at her with great seriousness. You're a good cooker for someone who didn't used to cook. Thank you, Amara. That's a very specific compliment. I give specific compliments. Dad says vague compliments don't mean as much. Your dad is right about a lot of things. Don't tell him that. He gets a face. I don't get a face, I said. You're getting the face right now, Amara said, and went back to her homework. Laura stood from the couch, came into the kitchen, opened the cabinet where the pasta was, filled the pot with water and set it on the stove. She moved through the small kitchen with the ease of someone who had learned the space, who had been in it enough times that it had stopped being someone else's kitchen and had become just a kitchen she was in. She passed close to me on the way to the cabinet, stopped, put her hand briefly on my chest, looked up at me, that was all. No words necessary, no grand gesture. Just a hand on my chest and eyes that said, I'm here, I'm still here. I put my hand over hers for a moment. She went back to the pasta. I went to help Amara with her homework later, much later, after the pasta and the homework and Amara's bath, and the argument about one more story that ended the same way it always ended, with one more story. I stood in the doorway of Amara's corner. She was asleep, the one-eyed elephant tucked under her arm, the painting she'd made visible in the low light from the hallway, her hair a disaster on the pillow. I thought about a Tuesday morning 6 months ago, 6:43 a.m., a flickering light in a garage in River Oaks, a house that looked like a statement, a woman with paint on her hand who asked me a question nobody had thought to ask. I thought about everything that had happened since, the good and the hard, the fear and the fights, the parking lot and the courthouse and the fire and the verdict. I thought about Amara saying, you want to be here, right? And I thought about Laura saying, stay. 2 of the most important words anyone had ever said to me, both of them true, both of them still true. Some lights flicker. That's not always a malfunction. Sometimes it's just the connection working itself out, settling into place, finding the current it was always supposed to carry. You fix the wire. You make sure the connection is solid. You turn it on and see what holds. What holds, you keep. What's real, you stay for. That's the whole thing. That's always been the whole thing. I turned off the hallway light, went to find Laura. End of part 3, end of the light. He stayed for word count. Approximately 7,000 words.